Nacho, Nacho Man. Nacho Man, yeah. I got to be a Nacho Man. Got to be a Nacho Man. I got to be a Nacho Man.
Welcome, Vault Dwellers. My name is Nacho Bidness. We're just wearing some comfortable clothes today because we're in a shelter and we don't need any armor or gas masks or any of the other trappings required to survive in the post-apocalypse. It's nice and safe down here. If you have been with my channel for a while, you may recall that I really liked to tell stories with my Fallout 4 builds. It's something that I don't get to do quite as much with Fallout 76, given the very limited build system that we have with camps. But I do have an opportunity with this. What we're going to pretend here is we're going to pretend that this is something that my character has found, rather than something that he has built himself. It was something that he came across in his travels across the waste, and what he has found is a shelter that was made by someone who's not in the Free States, but shared a lot of their philosophy when it came to preparing for the coming apocalypse. So although this says that it's a Vault Atrium shelter, we're going to pretend that this is somebody who's completely independent. And when I talked about stories, that did a couple things for me in Fallout 4. One, it gave me a way to explain away sometimes some things that might not be super friendly for the lore, because I wanted to build a wacky contraption or or Dance Dance Revolution game inside Fallout 4. But in this case, it illustrates the other thing that having a story does, and that can inform a lot of rules that maybe make the final product look a little different than it would have otherwise. Since this person that built this place built it before the apocalypse and independently, there's not going to be any Vault-Tec decoration in here. Now, this color scheme on the walls is kind of vaulty, but other than that, we're not going to see anything like that in the rest of the shelter. It also means that I went ahead and covered up the Vault symbol on the floor there with some rugs. The other thing that we're going to see here is that there's nothing in here that is distinctly post-apocalypse. For example, we're not going to see Yaogwai heads on the wall, because those weren't around before the apocalypse. And Nacho discovered through journals and notes that the occupant left here that they lived here for about 8 years after the bomb dropped. Never went outside, no contact with the world, and that means that there's nothing from the post-apocalypse that was brought in here, except for maybe a few things that were brought in by Nacho himself. And after that 8 years or so went by, the occupants' food started to run out. Now, before it was completely gone, they decided that they needed to venture out into the outside world to try and find supplies. And so they left a final note saying that they were leaving, and they never came back. Nacho found the place and was able to break his way in without setting off the traps, and that's where we are today. And that's why this entryway is full of turrets and very unwelcoming. You know, it's got these signs that say danger of death and so on. Somewhat, maybe too hopefully, the occupant did have a doorbell here, so that if someone did come along, they could get their attention, with the idea being that somebody from outside could leave notes or trade items or whatever in the mailbox, and the occupant wouldn't have to come face to face with anyone. However, in 8 years, nobody came knocking at the door. Once Nacho figured out the door code, he went ahead and wrote it down on the wall over here, which is his usual thing of offsetting all the numbers by 1. So let's go ahead and put the code in. This door setup is something that I have done before, as far as having a decon arch that turns on automatically, as well as a buzzing noise from one of the speakers. And since there are so kind of few gadgets that we can do in 76, I have tended to repeat this setup from time to time. It does have a way to leave automatically without punching in code, but also have a way to lock the door open without punching in the code. And we've also got some other things here. We've got some turret switches here, or a turret switch that will turn on the turrets. So that was just something that the occupant did to save power. If they didn't need to be running the turrets, they wouldn't. And we also have this button here for trap. Now, if I was actually going to try and build this up as a trap base, I would at least try to cover the door here, since we can't lock them or anything. You can still cover a door and make it really, really hard to activate, and if you're taking damage, you can't fast travel. So, if the occupant so decided, he could knock on the door, or if they're out here, the rad things are particularly deadly. In fact, ooh, I think we can go ahead and scoot back inside here. Not a particular gameplay aspect to that, but something that I thought was in keeping with the kind of story and character of the occupant that I was thinking about in here. So, here is the kind of the main hallway, and let's get out of there. He's got some basic decorations on the walls. It's a tight fit in here. I was not able to actually completely use my budget on this build. It's the first time in 76 that I've ever had that happen, where I ran out of space before I ran out of budget. It's looking a little dark, and there's a reason for that. Let's go take a look at some fun things that I've done with some lighting in here. We've got this window. What's up with that? Well, if we hit that switch, we've got a place where somebody is living underground for years at a time might be tempted to do their very best to try and at least give the illusion that they have a window on the outside. So I thought this was a little fun thing. I saw somebody else do it. I wish I could remember the name so I could give credit, but I just thought it was such a neat idea of, like, yeah, we've got a, quote, window to the, quote, outside, right? Picked some nice sunset colors with some cycling bulbs that are kind of hidden above the window frame there. And we also, I could not put the switch where I could access it directly, but we can use this terminal here to turn all switches on, and the only switch that's actually on the same network as this terminal is, did I hit off? I think I hit off. The only switch that's on the same network as this terminal is one that controls the lights. So why don't I go ahead and disarm. That should allow me to turn off the window illusion there. Yep. And there we go. So now we've got our regular lights on. Let me back out of here and get back to the entranceway here. I wanted to have something that looked really kind of uniform. So I've got these the same lights all the way down. You know, this person went, this is pre-apocalypse, they went to their equivalent of Home Depot or Lowe's or whatever and bought everything that they needed to outfit this place. Got all the doors here as pocket doors because it saves space, and it is so cramped in here. And as you can see, you can kind of just barely turn around. So let's just go through these rooms one by one. We got this one here where the dock is in, and it's our entryway, first aid station, symptomatic, just a place where if the occupant needed to do any kind of medical care on themselves, they would be able to. Went ahead and put my brewing station in here as well, not because it really makes sense as a brewing station, but because it's got the sink and it looks like it could be vaguely medical in nature. So, get ourselves a bunch of chemical stuff on here on the wall that I'm sure is for compounding medicine or something. I don't know. Across the hall, we have the tool room. I managed to get most of the crafting stations in here, at least as far as armor and weapons and tinker. And so this is where, if the occupant needed to make something for themselves or machine something, they could. Power armor station doesn't necessarily make sense for us here, but I did want to have all the crafting stations available in my shelter. This here is his stuffed fish aquarium, something that this person put together mainly out of boredom. There was an awful lot of time on their hands during the years after the apocalypse. Next door, we've got the Pump You Up room, which is gym. Got our exercise bike, weight set, and a speed bag in here just so that the occupant could try to keep themselves in shape while they were down here. This here is the boom boom room. Not a lot of that going on though, with single dweller and nothing to do and nobody to do it with. So just a little bedroom for my dweller. Like I said, we got that window that they could lay in bed and look out and at least pretend that they could see the outside world. Got some fancy furniture and a cuckoo clock that they built themselves. Again, mostly just because there was nothing else to do for so many years. Got some reading material here, but after 8 years, again, this is stuff that they have read and read and read again, and it's all very well used. And we open out into a slightly wider space here. We've got a jukebox for some music, a place where a couple people could sit at the bar, if there were ever been a couple people down here, as well as a nice cooking area. And the fruit, unfortunately for the dweller, was plastic. All that they had to eat for all those years were prepackaged things like canned coffee, rice and beans, imitation seafood, and the like. So very little of this stuff left down here, though, when Nacho finally came in. Another thing the dweller did over the years was craft a number of very interesting beer steins. So although these are distinctly post-apocalypse, I kind of bent my rules with that as far as just pretending that this is something that the dweller made on his own out of boredom. With the exception of I guess even the Mothman, you could make an argument that that's a pre-apocalypse story. Certainly Grognak and Armor Ace are. Maybe not Babe the two-headed Brahmin, though. At any rate, bent rules aside, we also have just kind of a nice living area, and a place to play piano, try and indulge some other creative impulses. Unfortunately for the dweller here, there was never anything on TV, in a very literal way. In here we have a shower and, put down for once I have a bath mat that is actually here as a bath mat. In particular, there's kind of a wet spot on the floor in the shelter here, so it's like, okay, let's try and build around that and use that. So I've got my shower and there's a wet spot on the floor outside of the shower. So other than that, not much to say. It's a bathroom, but I do like to put a bathroom in every build, just because well, things just wouldn't make sense without it, right? Got a little storage cubby back here that has a lot of empty boxes, and does have his washer and dryer that the person used to keep their clothes clean, but otherwise all these supply boxes are pretty much empty. Between the inner and outer walls back here, I'm going to go ahead and turn on the light. We've got more boxes and crates and stuff, most of which had been full of food, but is now gone. These shelves are looking pretty bare. The final little thing to show you here is that if you pay very close attention and you've got the audio turned up, you may be able to hear voices back in the corner over here. Or at least the dweller certainly thought he heard voices, and with nothing else much to do in the last couple of years that he was here, he started digging. And what they found is going to be a story for another day. So that is my Vault Utility Room shelter. I certainly hope that you enjoyed my little tour, and I hope that you will maybe think about how to incorporate some backstory or some thoughts like that into your own shelters. If you enjoyed this little tour, please be sure to give it a like, and if you're not subscribed, be sure and subscribe if you did not like. Please tell me why in a comment so that I can do better for you next time. Until next time, my name is Nacho Bidness, and I'm saying it's a great big wasteland out there. Let's go have fun in it.